Electricast.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
On this episode of the SNSW podcast, Rayshawn, Buchanan, and Bob Kelly sit down with Josue Pavón, Celtics and NBA writer for Heavy.com and Celtics reporter for CLSN Media, to discuss the Celtics' 2020 season, their disappointing season-ending series in the Eastern Conference Finals versus the Miami Heat, and what moves can be made to avoid a repeat in 2021. Later in the interview, Josue will explain what it's like to do a podcast with one of Boston's most beloved Celtics icons, Cedric Maxwell. But first, this episode is being brought to you by Boxo Crafts. Boxo is an arts and crafts-focused kid subscription box. Boxo is a parent-run company that combines creativity and convenience in one monthly package, delivered right to your door. Boxo's premier box, Boxo Holidays, contains 4 separate art projects to get you and your family into the holiday spirit. Whether it's Halloween, Hanukkah, or Easter, they've got you covered with holiday fun. Boxo, we can't wait to see you create. Check out boxocrafts.com and exclusively to our listeners, enter promo code SNSW for 10% off your first order. That's boxocrafts.com, promo code SNSW. The SNSW podcast is a 1-hour weekly, 2-hour monthly podcast recapping the biggest stories in the world of sports with a New England flavor. The show notes and transcript of today's episode can be found in the description box below, as well as our WordPress and Buzzsprout pages. If you're new to the show, consider subscribing. It's the easiest way to see when we publish new episodes. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to rate us and leave a review of any of our shows. We always appreciate your feedback. And be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. All of our links will be in the show notes. And now, this is the SNSW podcast. But it's all relative.
Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the SNSW podcast. I'm Rayshawn Buchanan alongside Bob Kelly. Today we have a special guest with us on the show. He covers the Celtics for Heavy.com. He is the co-host of the Cedric Maxwell podcast and the founder and co-host of the Causeway Street blog and podcast. We'll have all those links in the show notes below. He is also a contributor to the Garden Report and is a Celtics insider for CLSN Media. That being said, I introduce the summer presenter to others, Josue Pavón. What's going on, man?
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the invite. How are we doing?
Good. Yes. Good to have you on, man. So just before we start, man, just how's everything been during this quarantine season, man? It's been, I know it's been crazy, but
yeah, it's weird now, right? I mean, right now we're supposed to be getting ready for a brand new regular season. It's the complete opposite. It's the beginning of the off season. It should be an entertaining off season. We'll see. I'm talking generally speaking too with the NBA. I do think the Celtics have a couple moves up their sleeves, but I don't think it'll be anything, huge. I'm sure we'll get into it soon, but yeah,
right.
It's been quite a transition. It's different. The leaves are changing and it's supposed to be a completely different time. But I guess that's just sort of puts the year 2020 in a nutshell, man. It's just a different time, I guess. But thank
yeah, I couldn't agree more. So
my parents right now, I check in with them, of course, and things have been good. Friends and family. Luckily, guys, everyone's been healthy.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. Same thing over here, man. It's been 2020 has been crazy, but thankfully to have people still safe and still sound. So just hope that it continues to stay that way. So it's like you hear this talk Celtics, so let's get into it, man. Sound good?
Yeah, man. See, I couldn't even. I'm already talking Celtics. Jeez.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's what we got to do, baby. That's my favorite thing to do, man. So, all right. So the first question we want to ask is, what's the grade that you would give the 2019-2020 Celtics, and who was the MVP of the Celtics for you this year?
Oh man, that's a good question. A grade I would give them, I'm gonna give them. You know what? I'll give them a C plus. I'll give them a friendly C plus. An MVP. I'm gonna say Jason Tatum for sure. Yeah.
I'm like that's a little lower than I thought, but I mean, as someone, I mean, Bob knows this, Craig knows this too, but you know, I was killing them in the postseason. You know, I was so mad with how they performed in certain spots. So I mean, now, you know, just talking to you right now and hearing you say C plus, I'm actually going to agree with you, because this team, with the talent they have, obviously with, you know, with Hayward and, you know, Smart, Kemba, you know, all that talent that's there on the top 6 or top 7 guys, they underperformed. And there's no other way to put it. Like, oh, you know, these guys are young. Okay, but how long are we going to say that? You know what I'm saying? So I tend to agree with you that, you know, C plus is probably an accurate assessment of what happened this year.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I don't give them, you know, I wouldn't give them a higher grade than a C plus is because the way things unfolded. I mean, obviously the injuries played a part here. This team wasn't healthy, and it came at a really bad time. Gordon Hayward, in my opinion, I mean, there isn't a better fourth option out there in the NBA. I mean, it's just his numbers across the board just completely were overlooked, what he was doing before the playoffs, or at least before the bubble. And I think that was a humongous blow. Obviously, we saw what happened throughout the course of the Toronto series and how important he could have been in that. And sure, the Celtics survived that, but they were outmatched, in my opinion. I mean, I to some degree, they underperformed because of their execution and because they had so many golden opportunities. Big reason why C plus comes into play there. I mean, I can't give a team like the Celtics a B that had a fourth quarter lead in every single game in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not like exaggerating. Like every single game, there was a fourth quarter. And of course, there was a double-digit lead more than a couple of times for the Celtics. You know, games that were in their hands and they essentially just let fly away. But again, to credit the Miami Heat, they did outplay the Celtics. Let's not kid ourselves here. I don't fall in the narrative of these guys shot themselves in the foot. Yeah, they did to a certain extent. Sure, experience played a part, whereas yeah, they're younger than most, but their experience, these guys have been there before, right? They've been in this situation. Specifically, we look at 2018 and how far Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were, who Jason Tatum is now compared to who he was back then, who they were facing at that time. All that experience, you take all that into account, and you're like, well, wait a minute here. Could we have asked, or could the Celtics have asked for a better path to the NBA Finals? It just didn't get better than that. If someone would have told me a month before the playoffs started, hey, the Celtics are going to beat the Raptors, they're going to beat the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to do against Miami Heat. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, I like the Heat. You know, I was a huge fan of the Miami Heat, especially when they added those two guys right before the shutdown. But the Celtics, let's face it, they were the favorite in that series, excuse me. You know.
So I have a follow-up question to that. Now, I'm with you with they underperformed, and the reason and how they underperformed is why that C plus comes into play. Because to me, with basketball, effort or a lack of effort is an inexcusable thing. So I'm definitely with you on that. If they had played the Bucks in that Eastern Conference Finals, would that grade be higher for you?
No, actually, you know what? Believe it or not, I thought the Miami Heat was going to be a tougher challenge than the Bucks. I just thought overall they just had so many. And here's the biggest reason why I didn't believe in the Bucks heading to the playoffs, because I'm like Eric Bledsoe, you know, DiVincenzo,
yeah,
DiVincenzo. I always forget the syllable, or I always try to add it.
Yeah.
You know, do I trust these guys? Do I trust these shooters? And I didn't. I don't trust these guys. And sure, Chris Middleton's going to give you some heck of, a couple of performances throughout the course of a best-of-7 series. But I'm like, is that enough, though? And the Miami Heat, just defensively, so many obstacles there for the Celtics, whether we're talking, you know, Iguodala, motivated Dragic, which I think is key to emphasize that word, motivated. I love Dragic over Kemba one-on-one, you know, because a motivated Dragic is a different kind of player, which just made the Heat a completely different team. Adebayo, I thought, was a humongous advantage for the Miami Heat, compared to Brook Lopez. And again, that's not a knock to Brook Lopez, but the running gun, the way these guys can defend in transition, I mean, it was just a much tougher matchup, in my opinion. The identity of the Miami Heat, I just thought I didn't like. I would prefer this for the Celtics' chances. I would have preferred them to see them play the Bucks, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that's said, because I feel like a lot of people felt the other way, like they wanted the quote unquote easy way out, and face Miami. Now, I mean, Milwaukee, I think people were basing it off last year where, they essentially took us out of there in 5, but we don't have to go down that rabbit hole and talk about the chemistry issues that team had. So the stuff that happened with Kyrie and, just, Tatum not getting enough shots, Brown not, feeling comfortable in the offense and just being mad that Hayward was getting more opportunities than they probably should have coming off that ankle injury. But the only reason why I think Milwaukee would have been tougher is because they just packed the paint, even though they shoot a lot, but I feel like they packed the paint enough that, they would have just kept attacking. And, the refs call everything for Giannis, in my opinion. So not to sound like that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. Like, I feel like he gets every ball. As soon as he runs down the middle. It's just like, oh, okay. Like, he's a 6'11" Russell Westbrook. And he just, people just run out the way when he attacks. So, and like I said, they do shoot, but like you said, to me, there is Giannis and then a bunch of role players. Like Middleton to me is a role player too. That 30 I think was game 4 against Miami when he had 36, and it's like, well, why can't you do that against other, when Giannis is there, like when against other teams? But he doesn't. So I don't know. It's kind of it's an interesting dynamic with them for sure. So that kind of leads into, because I'm so kind of keeping the topic with Miami. So hypothetically speaking, if the Celtics had got past Miami, how do you think they would have fared against the Lakers in the finals?
I honestly think you probably would have saw the same thing. Lakers in 6, maybe 5, maybe. I mean, again, the matchup, instead of Bam Adebayo, we're talking Anthony Davis. You know what I mean? That's just tough. I didn't like the Celtics' chances in that. And it's funny, my co-host Max, he thinks they had a shot. He thinks the Celtics team had a shot. I'm like, Max, what? Like, you're insane. Like, listen, the series against the Raptors, I thought this team had turned a significant corner that would get them to the NBA Finals. I really did. Whether it was the Milwaukee Bucks waiting for them or whether it was the Miami Heat. I'm like, they learned so much about themselves throughout that. Specifically, Jason Tatum. It's you could pinpoint so many things that, if they win differently in that best of 7 series against the Heat, that the Celtics win that series. But game 1, Bam Adebayo, like one of the greatest blocks ever. Like, seriously, like, you can't make that stuff up. And then people complain about, oh, well, Jason Tatum, well, the last possession. No. Screw the last possession. That possession, he did exactly what you wanted him to do. He didn't set up for the 3. He didn't back down. Bam Adebayo was coming to him. It was toe-to-toe, man versus man, man on man, and he lost. And, let's say he converts that layup. Do the Celtics go to the NBA Finals? Maybe. There was just so many of those situations. But again, in the end, the Celtics had a lot of games where they could have won. And that's probably not even one that tops the list, I guess. Game 1 is up there, but there was a couple of other winnable games as well, and the Celtics just let it go right through the fingertips.
Yeah, that's what surprised me most about that Heat series is you really did see, and I said it so much on the show throughout that entire series, is like you really did see that team's championship mentality, that they were backed up against the wall so many times. They had absolute nut checks. Like, listen, everything is against you. What are you made of? And each time they showed up and did their thing. And then you get to that Heat series and it was just the complete opposite. So, but then with the Lakers, I agree with you there when it comes to Anthony Davis. I think he would have created such crazy matchup problems. Now, do you think there would have been even when it came to LeBron, do you think he would have absolutely dominated this team in that finals like he did to the Heat?
I think you would have saw him probably the same, maybe a little less, but not much. I think the Celtics did a really good job. Well, I shouldn't say really good job, but in comparison to what LeBron typically does against the Boston Celtics, they fared well in those 2 games against him, or at least in general. I just think the Celtics defense has just taken another notch compared to what we've seen. And it's sort of hard to gauge. I mean, the easiest game to look at would be the overtime loss that happened in LA. I was actually there for that. One heck of a game, in my opinion. That's up there. Probably my favorite performance from Jason Tatum but they impressed me how they defended. You know, the Celtics, of course, the Lakers and LeBron James, like he has a really good memory. He'll remember a 35, or I forget what, I think it was a 40-point blowout that the Celtics gave him a few months before. So I was expecting the Celtics.
That was on MLK Day. It was crazy.
Yeah. I'm expecting the Celtics to get us. They pushed it to overtime. Tatum, 41 points, career high, all that good stuff. So I love the Celtics match. I love the way they defend him. But just overall, as a matchup, Celtics versus Lakers, I just think Anthony Davis puts them over the top for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Now, not to keep rehashing that heartbreaking season that we just had, but as we know, that's over. So we're going to ask you some GM questions of what you think the Celtics need to do in order to get to that spot that we think they should be at, which is in the NBA Finals. Does that sound good?
All right. Cool. I'll do my best, man. I don't know.
All right. So the first question.
Cap space.
Facts. So that leads right into my next question. So when it comes to this draft, what do you think the Celtics strategy should be? Now, we all know they need a big man. Do they acquire that as a young big man, or do they take those picks plus a couple players and maybe go get like a Miles Turner, Steven Adams? Where do you see them going with this?
The second part for sure. Look, I wish there was this secret big man that the Celtics could just grab and plug into Stevens' rotation, the guy with flourish. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is one, but again, can he plug him in? Can Brad Stevens plug this guy in and get instant results? I just don't see it. That's the best course, I think. And I think it's what Danny is going to try to do. In terms of seeing a huge shakeup, like I just don't see that. Some people might look at that as a huge shakeup. If that's the case, then I think that's what Danny's aiming for. I think he wants to package those picks, maybe package a couple of these players, a couple of these younger guys. It's just tough because he just didn't have a good chance to showcase them, right? I mean, right. Romeo Langford, how much trade value is there, right? Outside of a historic preseason 3-point performance from Carson Edwards, where's his trade value after that, 1 year removed from that, So it's just really tough for him because I think if you have a guy like that, then it makes things a little easier. Robert Williams, I mean, there was a stretch in the season before the shutdown where it was like, man, maybe this is it. And it just didn't happen, right? It just never materialized. So I think he's going to be up against it. I love those two guys you just named. Miles Turner in particular, of course, his name did come up. Some people aren't so crazy about it, or at least they're not crazy about the idea of seeing the Indiana Pacers deal him. But, I mean, I've been told that, the Pacers are open to it. I mean, he hasn't been completely healthy, but they're not completely thrilled about that new contract. They're a little nervous. They're thinking about getting from up under that, but is that package enough? Put yourself in the Pacers' shoes. Are you excited about Romeo Langford? Are you going to give up a guy like that? I mean, sure, you're going to save some cap space there, but you're going to want someone in return, someone that you truly believe in. Now, for the Celtics, what sort of works in their favor, maybe there's a team that's drooling over someone that's projected to be selected at that pick. Maybe someone really wants that 14th pick. Or maybe that one guy brings on two more rookies that they're like, or 2 or 3 more rookies. Maybe this is worth it. But again, there's not going to be a whole lot of value in that proverbial big man that we're all sort of trying to plug and see who's going to fit for the Celtics.
Right. The one person I think, and I want to know what you think about this, that could add value that possibly could get us Miles Turner, because you said they're trying to get that cap space, is I know Gordon Hayward has 1 or 2 years left on his deal. I think he has 2 left now, right? So what just hypothetically, just hear me out. Gordon Hayward, Langford, the picks, and I don't know. Who's the guy that we just got from France?
Oh, Vincent Poirier?
Yeah,
I mean,
Poirier.
I don't. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So is Gordon Hayward enough to get that upside, do you think, with the Pacers, where they could partner Oladipo with Hayward for 1 season, see what they got, and then maybe they would think about doing that, or is the league down on Hayward like a lot of Celtics Nation?
Thing, man, like Hayward again. what he did throughout the regular season is great, but because of what happened in the playoffs, the very first game, man, talk about bad luck. The first game of the playoffs, that really set it back. So his trade value diminished in a huge way after that. It's sort of, but not in a way that's like, oh, he's completely out of the window. But it's like, hey, you have to prove that you can do that again, you know. And I think that's why all signs are pointing that he's going to opt into that deal, because there's not going to be a whole lot of that's out there, and you can prove yourself for $34 million. You know, you're going to take that, you know. And I think if you're the Indiana Pacers, I'm going to wait, because I'm going to say, let's see how he does. And if I like him that much, I'll just go out and sign him. You know, we'll see where his value is at. And if we're really crazy about moving from Miles Turner, the money will be there, you know. So it's a couple different ways you could look at it. If Gordon Hayward was putting up those kind of numbers throughout the postseason, maybe the Pacers think about it. Maybe they say, you know what, let's get him now. You know, obviously he has hometown roots here. Maybe a hometown discount will come into play when we have to give him a new contract come the next offseason. But again, seeing Hayward go down didn't do him any favors. And for the Boston Celtics, if you're trying to deal him, I think your best bet is at least the trade deadline in 2021, whenever that's going to be.
Right. I mean, but that's the thing too, is like, you know, I feel like teams are not going to look on to take that as a rental. I feel like, I mean, that's an option, because I mean, it'll be an expiring deal, so to speak. So that's possible. But I just want to circle back around before we close out about the big man thing, right? So yeah, most likely there is some magical big man out there that's going to do something. But, you know, 3 guys I'm thinking of right away. So obviously we're not going to get Wiseman, because Wiseman's going to go top 3, whether he goes to Charlotte or to Golden State or to Minnesota. But Jalen Smith from Maryland, Daniel Oturu, who's from Minnesota, and then James Wiseman's teammate Precious Achiuwa, who could maybe be a late lottery round pick. So do you know all those guys, and you know, could those guys be a fit in Brad Stevens' system? Personally, I think Achiuwa would be the best fit, because defensively, I think right now, to me, he's an NBA defender. Now he can't shoot that well yet, but from a defensive standpoint, he fits what Brad Stevens is trying to do versatility wise.
Yeah, no, I like him. That's the one name that stood out for me for sure. That's realistic. That's something to certainly grab. But I just don't know if he's NBA ready, you know. And I also don't think that Brad Stevens is completely. I mean, not that he would give up on Robert Williams, but I think there's still some hope there. I mean, Grant Williams is certainly above Robert in the totem pole for Brad Stevens, and that's another guy too. I mean, don't sleep on Grant. That's someone going to certainly step into a bigger role, and I think he's going to do a really good job at it. I do. I have. He's someone's going to be an everyday player in the NBA, which is exactly what Brad Stevens said. And I think he makes that leap sooner than people are going to realize. Now, is he going to get you over the top? No, but he's a piece that's going to boost that second unit. And right now, I think the Celtics, outside of guys like who might be available, you know, whether we're talking, I don't know, Willie Cauley-Stein, or, you know, these guys who may be looking to latch onto a team and prove that they still have, you know, what it takes to contribute to a contending team, you know, maybe something take a flyer on someone like that, and that pans out. But I think your best bet is to see what happens from within. And if the Celtics can't trade for someone like a Miles Turner or someone of that magnitude, or a defensive shot blocker, or rim protector, then I think that's sort of the route they're going to go. And mid-season, because I think Danny Ainge is going to make it. I think he's made it somewhat obvious that this team isn't where it needs to be to compete for a championship. So he's going to make a deal with those pieces. I just don't see him keeping all those draft picks along with the rookies that he already has on the roster. So we'll see. We'll wait. But that's the area that needs to be addressed the most, for sure.
Yeah, no, so like that's where my head always goes to, is like, we've seen it so many times in the past where with Danny Ainge, you always think he's going to make that deal with these picks, but then he just doesn't. You know, we've seen it year in and year out. We're like, oh, we're going to do it this year. This is the year. This is the year. This year. And then we end up drafting Carson Edwards and Grant Williams. You know, right. So like, as much as I really wish, I feel like I'm with you on this, because like I wish we would make that deal, but I just don't. I feel like unless it's perfect for Danny, which always seems to be the trend, he's not going to pull that trigger unless it's something he knows is going to make his team better.
Right, which makes you think how patient he can be, right? Like, yeah. he can wait this thing out. And that's why I think it's just, like, relatively speaking, you're going to see pretty much with the same rotation, at least the same core that you saw last season. and guys like, I don't know, Portier or Javonte has a shot to make the team. They may retain Javonte for next season. But Shemi Ojale, I mean, a lot of these guys, you're not going to see them coming back.
Shemi got to go, man. I'm
Ray,
sorry.
Ray hates it.
Yeah,
he hates it.
I'm out. Like, to me, we'll say this and we'll wrap it up soon, but it's like.
you brought up Semi, man. You better time out some 45 minutes.
No, yeah. No, Shemi Ojale, to me, has gotten so much clout off what he did in that first round series against Giannis a couple years ago, and it's unbelievable to me. Like, he hasn't done much since. Like, he had a nice little stretch earlier this year, like on their West Coast.
Every time we talk about the Bucks, right?
Yeah. Back to Milwaukee, right? So it's just like, okay, like, yes, he can guard Giannis for a couple of possessions, but what other defining moments has he had in his young career? Yeah. And it hasn't been one. So maybe he's the next Yabusele, and he has to go. Like, you have to upgrade that bench. I'm sorry, like it cannot stay as is. Agree. And, you know, like, I feel like, to me, as Celtics fans, we've been conditioned to think like, well, Danny's not going to make that move. So listen, Danny, like, if you're listening to this, like, do not think that you have to finesse the other team. I know that's what you've been doing. You finesse Billy King, you finesse Dan Gilbert. I get that, but make it happen.
But for a 3-and-D guy, like, he's just like he
loves him, man.
He's gonna be this guy. Like, he's gonna mold into this player that I need him to be. It's just, unfortunately, never worked out.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at 3-and-D, you know, that kid out of Villanova, Cedric Bey, that might be the next guy. He's a 3-and-D guy specialist. I feel like, you know, so maybe that's the guy they look after, because to me, the Shemi days are done, man. But you know, it is. I could go on another 20 minutes about that, but.
Well, I don't know, man. Maybe Javonte will be your new Shemi, at least in that role. Maybe, I don't know if you'll dislike him as much, but maybe.
He's a high flyer, but once again, what are the moments that you have? Like, okay, you can jump over somebody, but, you know, I mean, he has to grow defensively before I can say that he's going to be an impact player. So we'll see.
A lot of people said the same thing about Jalen when he came into the league too, though.
He's not. Stop. He's not Jalen Brown.
You read my mind. Like, you see a pattern. Right, Brad loves these guys.
Like, loves them, man.
He can play 2 through 4. Brad's like, really? Like, he's drooling over these guys. Like, send them through. Man, the year Jalen got drafted, I'm on Causeway going on and on. They're like, and my co-host Sean Dutra is just like, nah, man, I hope he doesn't. There's no way. I'm like, dude, Jalen Brown is so Brad Stevens. He's such a Brad guy. Like, he does everything that Brad loves and has the athleticism and, you know, how he can defend and transition. I'm like, this has Brad Stevens written all over it. So, yeah, he loves those guys.
Yeah, he does. I mean, you know, thankfully we kept Jalen, because I know everyone in 2016 wanted Jimmy Butler. So,
they're quiet now, too.
Yeah, real quiet. I mean, I'm in, you know, I'm not afraid to say that. You know, I wanted Jimmy at that time. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm like, I didn't watch too much Pac-10 basketball at the time. So I'm like, who is this kid? I'm like, you got another guy who can't shoot right away. Like, that's. I was pissed. I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed. But you know, he's growing every year, so I'm excited about that. So
that's Sean's new go-to now, Jamal Murray. I'm like, man,
Jamal Murray, man.
Yeah, but this dude wanted everyone but Jalen. Like, I think I'm like, oh man, if the Celtics draft Chris Dunn, I don't know where this team's going, man.
My gosh, I'm actually glad that never happened either. Yeah. I know he was a local guy.
But I did give him some credit for that one though. I'm like, there were some days throughout my mock draft, I was like, Jamal would, but I'm like, wait a minute now. Jalen is just that guy that fits the mold. And another thing, too, about Jamal that people forget, if the Nuggets don't make him into a point guard, it could have taken another couple of years before he actually – because this is going to happen eventually, right? You can't hide this, right? But it may have derailed things for another year or two before we actually see who he is now. But
yeah.
Right, exactly.
So I have one last question about the offseason. When it comes – so I know – that what we just said, the Celtics, to me, have been ignoring their bench and not bringing in those bench guys that we've seen have success year in, year out. Those guys who are so vital to winning a championship. Is there anyone out there in free agents or anything like that that could fit that role for the Celtics at this point? Because it just seems like to me that's something that they've been ignoring the past couple of years. No Posies coming in, no House coming. You know what I mean? None of those guys coming off the bench that you really can rely on.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I mean, it's just no one really comes to mind. Last year, I love the idea of Jamal Crawford. I thought that was someone that just from a locker room standpoint could just really get in there and sort of help fix things, you know. But I don't know, you know, it's just tough. I think of a couple of guys, but I just don't think they would fit where the Celtics are going, or at least because of the cap restrictions. You know, Rajon Rondo. I mean, some people don't want to hear that name, but man, someone like that.
I would love Rondo to come back. I didn't want him to leave. So.
That voice could go a really long way for someone like Kemba Walker, you know, and that's the role he finds himself in now, just mentoring, and it's a heck of a position to be in, you know, for someone who's been in the league for so long. So, but yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, those guys certainly come to mind, but again, I just don't realistically see the Celtics going out and, you know, ignoring the other two major issues that they need to address and addressing, you know, the locker room presence and voice. But hopefully something comes along. You know, I would like to see Danny do that. That was sort of what he used to do, right? During the Big Three era, you know, any veteran that was thirsty for a championship, hop on if we like you. You know, if KG doesn't hate you, come on in. So hopefully, yeah, right,
right,
or
exactly.
You know, you pass your test, you know. So, but maybe that does happen. Maybe something comes available. It's just tough right now. It's so early in the off season, and they're at a time where we don't even know when things are going to really get going, you know. But I'm keeping my eye out. But let me ask you guys a question, because this name popped in my head, and not because he fits the criteria you just said, but I think it was more of an ironic thing that his name popped up. DeMarcus Cousins. People aren't, you know.
You know what? You know? Like my initial reaction is yes. Like I would love that. Now I know, you know, people are big up here on, oh, you know, is he going to ruin the locker room? But at this moment, you need talent coming off the bench right now. And I'm not. I'm assuming he would come off the bench. I don't know if Brad would start him, but now I know he would probably get killed in the pick and roll because I feel like he hasn't been the same, you know, mobily since the ACL. I mean, since the Achilles injury a couple of years ago. But can you get him for $3.5 million? I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who. I feel like he would start because, I mean, we were starting Daniel Tice at center in the middle of the Eastern Conference Finals. So to me, I think that's it's someone that I know Brad likes because I know it's someone that they had conversations about bringing it in the past. I like DeMarcus here. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and also he brings to steal the word from Greg Popovich. He brings some nasty here. Yeah. Like we need that. It's like your 6'4" point guard can't be, you know. When I'm talking about Marcus Smart, can't be the only guy that brings that nasty. It's too pretty out there at times. Like you got to get ugly, you got to get gritty sometimes. You know, not to take it back to but it's like we had some goons on that team. So whether it was Perk, you know, KG, you know, Posey, you know, Tony Allen. You know, like we had guys that would say, you know, we know our role, and you know we're tougher than you, not just physically but mentally too. So they got to get them guys here.
It's that dominating influence, right? That presence. You know, funny. Before I'll never forget this, and I guess it didn't. It's like a moot point because of what happened because Celtics won. But I'll never forget Game 7 right before the tip, and I think it was it Lowry? No. Someone from the Raptors was like talking to, I don't feel like it was Lowry. I don't think he would do it. I think it was someone else. Talking to Tatum, and they're just like laughing and stuff. And like, listen, like, I'm not going to be like, oh, Tatum is not focused enough or he's out of the game. I'm just like, what happened to those other Celtics teams? You know, like that culture where it was just like, yo, I'm not, as soon as we hit the floor, like, we're not friends. Like, I'll talk to you in the hallway or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think Celtics need some more of that, you know? And I think Miami had a lot of that. And I don't want to say they bully the Celtics, but they sort of got into their head, right? You know, you snatch
absolutely, and
double there's nothing. You know, that's going to happen to any team. And I think this was in the end in that Game 7. It was a head game, and the Miami Heat won.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece they were missing, which is definitely what they need. Which what we've been talking about the whole time is strength. You know what I mean? They just got bullied. That entire series, they were getting bullied all over the place, whether it was Tatum, whether it was Brown. Everyone was just getting bullied up and down the court. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, they made Bam Adebayo look like Shaquille O'Neal out there.
Right.
And I mean, he got neutralized in the finals. He got neutralized. You know, it was Kentucky against Kentucky, and AD said, "Hey, it's my time, big fella. Yeah. You know my level. There's levels to this." And he found out. Good, but because to me, you know, you could tell me if you agree or disagree. I feel like Bam is an upgraded version of Al Horford. just someone that can, that's going to control. He could bring up the ball. He can't shoot the three like Al yet, but to me, I think he's going to grow into that player and maybe surpass what Al has done in the NBA.
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison because Al, people forget he didn't. That three was literally. I think that 3-point touch is what made the Celtics say, okay, done deal. He's our guy now. Because when he added that to his game, it obviously changed things and it fit the mold for Brad Stevens. So yeah, it's actually a good comparison because I think that was year 5 maybe for him. He had been in the league for quite some time. And then he
got drafted in 07.
Because he went from taking like 1 to like 4 to 5 threes a night. So
right, exactly, yeah.
All right, so talked about the offseason a lot. Now you have podcasts with Cedric Maxwell. Anyone who listens to this who watches the Celtics know that Cedric Maxwell is not only one of the most entertaining people I've ever seen on TV, but probably one of the biggest characters I don't want to say I've met him because I haven't, but probably one of the biggest characters I've ever seen on TV as well. You got any good Cedric stories for us, man?
Oh man, Max is a trip. This guy. Sometimes we honestly, man, sometimes our episodes are just like full blown conversations that are just needed to be documented. It's like sometimes we'll record an episode and then we'll just like start talking about something else and I'll just hit record and then that'll warp into another one. It's incredible, the chemistry and just who he is. His personality. Everyone who's had conversations with him will tell you. But man, a good Max story. I'm trying to think. I mean, one that certainly comes to mind at first was, this happened when we were out in LA when the Celtics were playing against the Lakers. And the reason it comes to mind is because it was so close to the shutdown. And outside the podcast, obviously I used to see him all the time before and after games and on the road. So every couple cities, every once in a while, he would hit me up and be like, take me out to eat or we'll go somewhere to hang out. Because obviously he knows a lot of the spots and stuff. And this is actually my very first time in LA. So it was an off day. And the Celtics, he stays where the Celtics stay, right? So they stay in this hotel in Beverly Hills. And he invited me over. He invited me over, man. So we're hanging out. It was a blast, man. We're talking about like all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with basketball. He's telling me like crazy stories about like him and college and his days and stuff that like way before he even got to the NBA. And we started getting into the Mount Rushmore conversation, right? I've had this so many times. It's actually one of our very first episodes was about this. Mount Rushmore, who your sports Mount Rushmore, not basketball, sports Mount Rushmore. So we're throwing out names, of course. Jordan is being brought up, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson and stuff. And as you guys can imagine, Max isn't shy, right? So people are, some people are having conversations, but people are sort of, quiet a bit. And Max is just turning around and be like, hey, give me your Mount Rushmore. People, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, you right here. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah. Sports Mount Rushmore. Who you got? And people, literally, random people being like, Michael Jordan, right? Like literally on the spot, Tiger Woods, like just random people. So then he's like, oh, what about you, miss? And I look over and it's Carrie Champion from ESPN. You guys know who that is?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, Max, that's Champion. He's like, wait. I'm like, that's the girl from E. He's like, I thought she looked familiar. So she can't hear us, right? And he's telling me, I'm telling her who she is. He's like, well, even better. Let's find out who her Mount Rushmore is. She comes over. She gives her Mount Rushmore. She throw Kobe in there. So we get into a whole conversation about how Kobe's name, obviously Kobe's legacy and how everything, has the NBA world that time was upside down, right? And a couple of days before his memorial. So Kobe Memorial was that Monday. The game was Sunday, and we were talking for a while, and we ended up just hanging out. And I don't know. That's the first story that came to my mind because I'm just like, man, like we're in the middle of Beverly Hills. This is obviously like not. The Ramada, and this dude is just screaming at people, strangers, like middle age.
I love it though. I love it.
Like think about it. You're thinking, oh yeah, Celtics. No. This is a middle of a random nice hotel. Like you don't know who these people are. It could be like surgeons in there. Like you don't know. And he's
in the middle of Los Angeles of all places too. Like yeah.
There's so many times where I'm with Max. This is why I have a podcast with him. So many times where I'm just like, this is a podcast. Like, it was like a line that I used to always drop with him. He'd say something funny. I'm like, hey, Max, you know what this is? He'd be like, a podcast? I'd be like, yes, this is. So, yeah, man, funny times, man. Never a dull moment with Cedric Maxwell.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that's dope. But so before we get out of here, man, like how can we find you on social media?
Oh man, I appreciate it. So you can find me on Twitter at Joe_Sway. Check out all my writing. Also follow Heavy on Celtics on Facebook, guys. We got a lot of great content coming out. A lot of obviously things, rumors and reports, and a handful of us got you covered. Not just Celtics, but obviously for exclusively Celtics writing and coverage. Follow Heavy on Celtics on Facebook.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Well, we appreciate your time, man. We hope this ain't the last time that we connect with you. And
no, definitely, man. Let's do this again. I appreciate it. This was fun.
It was fun for us too, man. So we appreciate you coming on the show today, and we hope to have you on again as we get closer to the start of the 2021 season. Once again, our guest today has been Josue Pavón. He covers the Celtics for Heavy.com. He is the co-host of the Cedric Maxwell podcast and the founder and co-host of the Causeway Street blog and podcast. Josue, thank you for joining us here today. So for Bob Kelly, I'm Rayshawn Buchanan. This has been episode 13 of the SNSW podcast. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Hey there, fabulous souls. I'm Stephanie Baklaan.
And I'm Eden Alpert.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, Unapologetically Fab.
Get ready to join us on an amazing and real journey as we dive into life after 40 and own it.
We're all about changing the narrative, leaning into who you are, and living a life by your own design.
Join us as we embrace life unapologetically and redefine success.
This is Unapologetically Fab,
an Electric Cast production.
See you there.
Electricast. Step inside the marketing mirror to uncover marketing secrets, discover gems, tactics, lessons, and campaigns you can use, next gen or fundamentals. Grab the marketing magic to improve your marketing and win more business. Electricast. Electricast.